Finding Your King or Queen. I'm your host, Dr. Crystal Lee, and this is a podcast on finding your king or your queen. So today I wanted to bring you a topic, and the name of the topic is called Potential, Enemy, or Friend. Now, before we get into it, I just wanted to let you know if you would like to reach out to me or connect with me on social media, you can do so at author KLEE. If you would like to be a guest or have some questions you want me to talk about, or you want to reserve your personal offline coaching session, then you can reach me at drcrystallee.com. That's drkrystallee.com, and click the contact and fill out the short form. And based on your selection, I will reach out to you. So we're talking about potential. Is it your enemy or is it your friend? So how many of us have been sold on potential? I mean, have we seen a king or thought he was a king or a queen? It was like, yeah, that person got potential. They might got some flaws, but I can work with that, And then at what point did potential become the enemy? Because we created a fabricated person that is not what we are actually looking at. But what we have used potential for is an excuse to blow past any red flags we saw, because we just believe so much in the potential that we forgot about the reality. In 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8, it says to be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. And when I read that, I was like, man, it does make sense in relation to what we're talking about, in that we have to be sober-minded. You see, when we are not sober, meaning in our right mind, able to be, what's the word I'm looking for? When we're sober, we are able to think, to reason even. When we're not capable of reasoning with any real, in any real capacity or any real way, we find ourselves operating out of, I don't want to even use the word intuition, because intuition can be taken in so many different directions nowadays. But I would say we find ourselves operating out of innate thoughts, or some people might call them natural thoughts, or even our emotions, I would say, is probably a better word for me. We find ourselves operating out of our emotions. And of course, we know our emotions can be highly led by our feelings. They can be manipulated. Potential can be something great, but it can also be manipulated if we don't pay attention. So being sober allows you to be watchful. You see, when you are not sober or drunk or buzz extremely or buzz minorly, typically it causes you to what? To relax. And the word is telling us to be watchful, though. We ought not, get so caught up in potential that we're not being watchful of what and who we're dealing with. And I don't know about if any of you have saw and met someone and maybe married someone, and you was like, they just had so much potential. They just didn't reach the potential. And then I had to ask myself the question, did I really look at who they were, or was I more wrapped up in the potential I saw for them? Sometimes we can see flipper-upper properties and say, wow, we can turn anything into a gold mine or whatever. But how many of you have really kind of like looked at how flippers work? It's not just about taking a beat down raggedy house and saying, I'm going to make this a gold mine. It's about the house already having good bones and good structure, and all of the big ticket items not being a real problem. And then it's also based on the comps in the area. It's not simply just because this is a house I can go do all this work on and pour whatever I got to pour into to make it a diamond. It's about not having to do as much, and if I do have to do more to make it a diamond, the area for which this house sits and stands will only increase what I've already invested. It's supposed to still give you a return on investment that makes sense. If you had to put $100,000 into a house to make $10,000, most people will say that doesn't make sense because of all the work I put in. All I made was 10 grand. I don't want to do that. I mean, so you got to look at your return on investment for if you didn't put in 100,000. What if you said, okay, that's the top I want to put in, But if I can put in 50,000 or less or whatever and get 50,000 in return or 80,000 in return, well, which house is a better one for you? You see, some people might say, well, I'll put $100,000 in this house because I'm trying to live in it. And for me, I can live in it for 5 or 10 or 20 years. And then when I'm ready to sell it, everything, of course, typically, especially in the real estate business, tends to go up in time. But of course, there's a chance it could decrease as well. But ultimately, you have to see what really works for you. And that brings me back to the question, when we look at potential, is it really an enemy or a friend? And when you look at potential, it talks about looking at what something could be and not necessarily really completely at what it is. And that brings me to another scripture as well. And I know that I'm kind of picking this scripture apart a little bit, and I'm going to come back to the rest of it. But the Bible talks about what faith is. And I want to read what faith is, and it's coming out of Hebrews 11:1. It says, now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. And that's what potential is. But you have to be careful what you put faith into and to whom you put faith in. And you have to know, who is this person? Who is this person that I am trying to have faith in? Because if this person I'm trying to have faith in has no foundation to connect this kind of level of potential to, then my faith is really being wasted. My belief is really being wasted. It's really deceiving me because my faith is being manipulated. It's being manipulated. Some people would say, well, he's not all that great right now, or she's not all that great right now, but she's a diamond in the rough. He's a diamond in the rough. Then the question becomes, are they ready? Are you ready? Is this situation ready, or is it premature? Is potential really becoming the enemy? Because now I'm trying to picture myself with this person and picture myself with us going here and picture myself with all these things. And I'm realizing that the picture I'm painting is not real. It's not rooted in a real foundation. It's me having faith in even what I believe in, even if this person doesn't fit. And that's why I tell you, be very, very careful about creating emotional bonds and soul ties, because a hand gesture, a holding hands, kisses, or any of those things can start formulating feelings that are premature. And it will cause you to look at what might be genuine potential or manipulative or forced potential, because you are trying to force potential to justify your feelings or to justify these formulating soul ties when there's nothing there to root them in. You're really having faith in something that is a facade, something that you're creating out of thin air. Some people might say, well, he's really a good man. And you might say, well, how is he a good man for you, though? I mean, there's a lot of good men, a lot of good women, but that don't mean that all of them are for you. And they may be for you, but not in a way that you may want them to be. Or they all can't obviously be your husband, but maybe they're clients, or maybe they're friends. I know for some people, they don't believe in, male and female friendships. So then you have, of course, that whole situation too. But ultimately, you really have to go through meeting people and looking at them sober-minded, not with any interferences, because you first have to see what they are, who they are, and then what is their will. What do they want to do? What are they doing though? Because people could tell you, I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to be a dad, I want to be a father, I want to be a husband, I want to be a wife, I want to be a mother, I want to cook, but if they don't do any of these things, if they don't even buy groceries, I mean, they have a long way to go to become a cook. I mean, you got to learn how to grocery shop. You got to put in effort and time. And if they're not willing to make no effort or no time into these things, and you're like, yeah, but she got the potential. Yeah, I mean, technically we all got the potential. All things are possible. But are they willing? We all have potential, but are we really willing? And you got to look at people's will, not just the potential. Any house could have the potential of being a diamond in the rough, or a multi-million-dollar property, or whatever. If oil is underneath it, it'll pay for itself, right? but it has to have something that's driving it. What's driving this person? Is it something righteous or is it something unrighteous? Is it something that you need or is it something that you want? Is it something that you cannot live without, or is it something you really could pass on? And this is sober-minded. Sober-minded is asking the hard questions. It's the hard questions. If this person drinks excessively and you don't like a person that drinks at all, can you really put up with marrying? Or you might say, well, she has the potential to come out of this, or he has the potential to come out of this. But are they willing? I really don't like that he smokes, but he has so much potential. All these other things are going for him. I think I can put up with smoking. But smoking was your number one deal breaker prior to, but you're trying to look past it because maybe he's handsome, or maybe she's fine, or maybe it's because you feel like all these other things are good, and right now you don't want to see anything to take away what you really like or what you think you like, and then all these other things are kind of coming together, but you got to really ask yourself the question. I mean, for me, I cannot take I cannot take smoke. Like, smoking I don't know what it is. It just bothers me. It like gets in my throat. It makes me feel like I'm under a fog or something, especially if it's anywhere near like inside a house. Like if it's outside, like it kind of dissipates, and if I'm breathing in a different direction, I can kind of like dodge smoke. Because I have family members that do smoke, and I still try to have conversations with them at times. And for some people, it's okay. But if I'm inside a locked space, I can't do it. It chokes me. I can't breathe and all kinds of stuff. So me, realistically, I would never, should have never, married someone that smoked. And my ex, soon to be, whatever, husband was a smoker part-time, I guess. And it just wasn't my thing. And it wasn't, I didn't, you don't want to, for me, I didn't want to kiss him. I was like, yo, you got to brush your teeth. No. And so, for some people, they might not mind. But for me, it was the deal breaker for me. But, I pushed that aside and I said, but you know what? He's got so many other things that's potential. I'm a try to just, stick it out. But I knew in the beginning it wasn't my thing, But again, we'll push things aside for what we really want. But then are we really being sober-minded, or are we being manipulated by our own desires, manipulated by our own feelings and attachments and associations, and really believing some things about us that's not true, believing that our deal breakers are really not our deal breakers. They're flexible. If you really don't want children, but you marry someone that wants children, or you're courting someone that says they got to have children, and you say, well, you know what, he has so much potential, I'll think about it. But already at the gate, this isn't what you want to do. And yes, some people gradually change their mind, but most of them don't. And sometimes when people change their mind, they can resent you for it because it wasn't what they really wanted to do. And so now you're in this love-hate relationship because they feel like you changed everything about them. But you said to yourself, well, I told you I wanted children. And they'll say, well, I told you I didn't. And so you really have to be sober-minded and ask these hard questions and be honest with yourself, even if that means letting someone go and letting someone decide on their own that this is what I want now, or this is not what I want now. Because some people will make exceptions only to win you over. And then when they win you over, they go back to what they were saying in the beginning. And now you feel cheated or bamboozled or tricked, because they kind of pulled the wool over your eye when they told you, yeah, I'm gonna have children, and then you get married and they're like, no, I'm not having children for 6 years, or I don't want children anymore, it's too much work, and you're like, but I married you now, and now I feel stuck. So I want you to listen to people. Be watchful about what they do. Do they keep their word? Do they lie to people and say they're around the corner when they're nowhere near it? Do they say they're gonna meet you and they're late all the time? And this isn't about people's timing per se, but it's about their consistency. You have to know, are they consistent? See, what is real potential? Real potential is dependable. Real potential is who you really are, no matter what. Real potential is what you can rely on and what you can see building. It's not what you hope builds, what you have faith to build, because those things will still ought to be based and rooted in how people have proven themselves. We have faith and we operate. We have works. Our works also demonstrate our faith. I mean, we can't say we have faith in this and faith in that, and we have no works to prove them. I mean, James says, I'll show you my works. I'll show you my faith based on what I do, based on my works, what I'm doing. Do we not just talk? I mean, it's so easy to run our mouths and say stuff we won't do, we gonna do. And I know all of us got people that was around us if we got away, or that are around us that just talk about stuff, and you in your mind you've already blanked them out because you're like, that person ain't gonna never do it. I ain't even listening right now. I'm just staring out the window. I'm thinking about grocery lists. I'm thinking about everything but what's going on right now and what you're saying, because I already know your character. And my question is how long would you allow this fake potential to keep you stuck with somebody who you already know you don't even take seriously? Because it's only going to get more serious. So if you can't take someone seriously, then what are you doing? You know, what are we doing to ourselves? Is potential really your enemy? Is potential really your enemy? And then sometimes we can meet someone with all the great things, but we'll say, oh, but you know, he needs to lose some weight, or she needs to lose a little weight, or da-da-da-da-da. But you see that we're going to the gym. They're doing stuff though, right? They go and they work out with their children or whatever it is that they do, you know, to try to become more healthy. That's real potential. People who are actually doing something to become better. People might have bad credit, but you see them going through credit repair. You see them starting to watch their money. You see them starting to save, and that has real potential. Potential is not just somebody who says something and they don't have any fruit to prove that they're going in that direction. You have to watch people. Courting is about watching people and listening to what they say, but watching them even more so. And that's why it says be watchful, because your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion. You see, your adversary, the one that is the accuser of the brethren, the one that tries to go to the Most High and tell him, see, she ain't really changed. She's going to pick the same man she's been picking. She's going to keep picking these same guys that say anything and will look like they'll do anything for her, but they really not. They're really the same spirit, the same familiar spirit that keeps coming back to trick you, or that same woman that has that same spirit that you tend to gravitate towards because that's what you're familiar with. And familiar spirits, notice an S after familiar spirits, because that's what it is. It's something that is familiar to you. You might say, man, you act just like so-and-so. I don't know about any of y'all, but I can tell you there have been some strong similarities, you know, between the people that the two men that I've married and the other one that I seriously dated, that they all had. And I can look at them and say, man, they were all just so terrible for me, and why did I pick them? Or I can say, Crystal, what is it about you that tends to attract these people? The same spirit. It's not the person. It's not that. It's the spirit. And if another person comes up to me with the same spirit, will I be duped again? Or will I actually learn from my mistakes? You know, and that's what this is about. Life is about learning. Yeah, you make mistakes. I've made mistakes. We've all made mistakes. But the question is are we going to change? Are we going to grow? Are we going to elevate? Or are we going to keep giving ourselves the same excuse for why we made that same decision for that person a year ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago? I mean, some of us have been single for a long time, but we're still subject to the same spiritual warfare. And it's like, okay, Crystal, you got to grow in this area. And of all the areas in my life, I'm very sound in many of them. But I find myself, like many of us might have great jobs, great wealth, great this is going good. And then when it comes to relationships, it's like the wheels fall off. And we're like, Father, what happened? What happened? I'm nice, I'm caring, I cook, I clean, I take care of my children. I don't cheat, I don't lie, I'm honest, I'm upfront, I pray, I do these things, and I don't understand how I can be tricked. And we can become tricked when we see potential. And we're always like, well, you know what? He's got the potential. You know what? God can do all things. But you got to ask the first question. Is he a godly man? Is he a man that want to be ruled by the Father? Does he have the potential to be led? Does he have humility? Is he humble, or is he so cocky, so full of himself, so arrogant that you can't even talk to him? He can't even listen to you. But you think somebody he can see, that he gonna listen to someone he can't see? He doesn't respect nobody he sees. He thinks everybody owes him something, and that he's God's gift to the world, to you, to humanity. But this one, you says, has potential. One that hasn't even been broken yet. Now, he's been broken by the world. He's been broken in by pain, but he hasn't been broken to where the Father has really grabbed a hold of his life. Has he been saved? Yes. Most men can tell you they've experienced a miracle. Most women can say they've experienced a miracle. But has that miracle impacted their life so much to where they'll give away everything they are in exchange for what they could be? Yes, I used to be. But since I met the Father, I now am trying to be. I am now going this way. Those are the people that really have potential. It's not the people that look good on paper. There's a lot of people that look good on paper, but they are not teachable. They don't believe in y'all. They don't believe in what you believe in. And it's the core of your essence. And I realized that. I mean, I would even say my last two, I call them situations. But my last two situations, these brothers were intelligent. I mean, they were very intelligent. I can't say that they were dumb. I can't say they were stupid. I mean, they had degrees, they did their thing in college. They went for different things. But I realized something that I skipped over that was a fundamental, basic quality. They believed in a relative God. They said they were saved. I ain't gonna lie, the first one was not. He was raised Christian, became Muslim, and then I told him I don't. I was immature too at this point. I wasn't as mature as I am today. But he was saying, but I'm willing to find the truth. That's what he always told me. I'm willing to find the truth. I said, okay, well, if you're willing to find the truth, then I want to find the truth too, because at that time I still understood Christianity very much as a religion. I did not understand a lot of things I do now. So I did grow a lot in that relationship. I realized things about myself and things I was capable of that I did not think I would ever do. I never thought I would be someone that would have a child out of wedlock. I never thought I would be a person that would have children by different fathers. I never thought that would be me. When we were children, we see these things and we're like, I'm never going to be that. I don't want to be that, because we know the stigma that goes with having children with multiple fathers. We know the stigma of how people treat us when they feel like we have a baby and we're not married, or, we made this mistake, or we had sex before we got married. We know what it looks like. We know the shame. We know the guilt. And so sometimes when we feel those things, we don't know what to do. So we find ourselves either running completely away from the church or from God, and we're trying to figure it out on our own, based on this person that we really thought had potential, but we realized their potential was based on more worldly things than they were spiritual things. We looked at, did they have a job? Did they have a car? Did they have a house? Did they have money? Were they educated? Did they have good conversations? Those were the things I looked at. And he had all that. He had his own place. He had money. He had a career. He had a job. He had all these things. He was very intelligent. He was, he was a good looking guy. I mean, he had these things, and yet he didn't have one of the fundamental sound basics that I wanted and I was looking for. And that was a equal spiritual exchange. But I would say that he had challenged me in a lot of ways. And I would say by the end of I would call that dating. I mean, by the end of our dating, which was truthfully on and off again for like 5 years, I learned a lot. And I really understood where I was wrong and what potential was. And although it ended, I was thankful that I had met him, because he showed me more about myself and what I was capable of, in not every good way, but in some good ways, and even in not so good ways. But it made me humble. I was not humble when I was first married. I wasn't. I thought I had everything together. I hadn't done a lot of things. I wasn't guilty of a lot of things. I waited to have sex until I was married. I did all of those things. We did all those things that were right. That sounds good when you tell people. And I did everything wrong in, in the second relationship. And I was like, Father, I'll never judge nobody else. And it was when I met that one, I realized what it meant to be some of the people I talked about. Some of the people I would ask, well, why would you do that? I mean, you go to church and you was raised and you knew better. And, because it's really easy to judge people when you don't fully understand and you cannot relate. And so I had to be humbled. And I was humbled. I really was. And that's when I first experienced humility, was from my second my real second serious relationship. And yeah, so yes, before I digress. So be watchful and look at what real potential is, and know what your real deal breakers are and stuff like that. Because if not, a familiar spirit will come back around. This man can have everything you think you want. He looks good on paper, but spiritually he's out of whack. And I it's a lot of brothers and sisters I know that say they believe in God, but they lack the fundamental basics to really have a real relationship. And if you're a serious believer, meaning you really practice what you say you believe, then you really got to look at people's spiritual walk. You cannot just say, well, they got everything else but God, because that's everything if you're with him. And when you're with him, you realize that. You really do. You really realize, man, if you don't have him, you don't have none of the things I'm looking for, because everything else is subject to it. I mean, I remember visiting him in Buckhead, and he had like this really fancy lifestyle. I mean, he drove Maseratis and, and all that stuff. And it was nice, but it really still wasn't who I was. I mean, that wasn't what impressed me. What impressed me was that he was wanting to learn more about the Father. And I realized that potential that I was crazy about, I was all about winning souls, and I was so invested in seeing him saved that I lost myself. And I was like, but Father, this isn't me. I don't care about these things. I really want to know, where this is going and all these things. And I remember one day, I told him, I can't live with you because we're not married. And because we had done other things, he would say, well, I don't understand why that's a big deal now. And I said, but this was a big deal for me in the beginning, and I told you this. But see, I started, changing myself for potential. I was like, but you know what, Lord? He got everything else but this, and he's going to get there. He's going to, no longer be a Muslim, and he's going to, no longer think like this, and his lifestyle is going to make sense, and we're going to just grow and all these things. And sometimes you just grow apart. Sometimes people grow, but they don't grow with and for you. Sometimes you're just in somebody's life to minister to them. And you're not supposed to be a part-time girlfriend or potential wife or any of that. Sometimes you're just there to plant a seed for somebody else to come and water and grow it. Because if a man really wants you, or if a woman really wants you, they'll clean their whole life up. I mean, when you really want something, you'll clean your life up. If you want to impress somebody for a job or whatever, you're going to put on your best suit. You're going to wear cologne. You're going to do your hair that day. I mean, you're going to do stuff you don't normally ever do. And your family be like, dang, you must really want this job. Why? Because you're doing stuff you never do. And if you really want this man or this woman, you're going to pull off the stops. But I'm going to tell you this. If you're not sincere, then it wears off. In a few weeks, in a few days, in a few months, it wears off. And then you're left with the original person. You're like, Lord, this is not what I thought this was going to be. I mean, he's not what he was. She's not what she was. I mean, I think of a comical way, is if you meet somebody with weave and lashes and nails and all that stuff comes off, and you're like, whoa, that's not what you was. But it just goes to show us that we have to be watchful. And you can't be watchful, of someone in a week, in a few days, in a few months even. You got to watch people sometimes for years to know what they're capable of. And I'm not talking about sleeping with them at the same time. I'm talking about just watching them. Because if you're sleeping with them, then it blinds you to sometimes the reality. Sometimes people can watch you for 6 months and know what you're really about. And honestly, you can figure out a lot about people if you watch them, listen to them, pray about them, of course, and then talk to their friends and get to know their exes, because you find out a whole lot of stuff and you're like,
Interesting. I got something else too I want to talk about in relation to exes, but I'll put it on another one because I want to focus on this. And we're almost there. So he goes around like a roaring lion, seeking who he may devour, and he's looking to devour the righteous. He's looking for you to find fake potential in people that have no intentions of doing right, either doing right by you, specifically, really just doing right by you. Some people that have potential, they may someday get saved, but it might not have nothing to do with you. I remember, my mom told me something about uh, the second one, and she said, he is going to get there one day. One day he will be saved and he's going to do all these things. But Crystal, if you really want him, you're going to have to wait a long time. And I remember saying, at first I was saying, that's fine. I'm not in a hurry. And then after 2 years, I was like, it's been 4 years now, because she told me that earlier on too. But when it hit the 4-year mark, I was like, well, maybe I am a little crazy now, because it's been 4 years and it's still no different than it was in the beginning, really. He says sometimes, and that's what's so, to me, messed up and manipulating, not of him, but of me, of my emotions, my feelings, and how I saw potential. Because, one of the things I had to learn is I can't blame somebody else for how they treated me. I have to blame myself for how I allowed them to treat me. And when I started realizing that, even in the time, I never hated him or any of those types of things. I don't hate either one of my ex-husbands either. I wish them both the very best, and I'm glad to see that, one of them is doing great, and the other one, I'm sure his life will get better. I don't know. But I don't hate none of them, but I realize that I cannot live my life being a victim. I can't live my life saying, oh, they just were so terrible to me, and oh, they just abused me, and I'm just, this sad victim that just needs some savior to come and save me from myself. No, that's not what it was. I have to understand why Crystal was making the decisions Crystal made, not why somebody lied to me, not why, they cheated on me. I can't look at it for those reasons. I can't say they cheated on me and now I'm the victim. I have to say, why would I continue to pick people or pick whatever, what I mean? Pick people, that would treat me like that. Why would I choose somebody that would steal from me? Why would I choose somebody that will, tell me to wait on them, and then I find out they got a baby on the way, And when I ask them that, they lie. Why would I choose someone or choose to stay with somebody? Why would I still believe in potential in somebody that keeps lying to me? And I tell them, especially my last husband, ex-husband, I said, why do you keep lying though? Why not just be real? Because if you're real, then I can make my choice. But if you lie to me, I feel manipulated. I feel like whatever potential could have been there for us to fight through you having a baby on the way and all these other things, I could have dealt with that so much differently. But because now I can't trust you, whatever potential I believed in, I don't believe in anymore. And so potential turned into my enemy. And I question, was potential ever my friend? If I allow potential to blindside me and to trick me and to do these things. So I realize that potential is not really what I want. I want someone that's already what I'm looking for. You see, some people like houses that are already done. They ain't got to build it because they don't have the time. They're not in it for that. That's not their angle. And some other people, they feel like, hey, if I build this from the roots up, I'm gonna have a solid house. That's true. And other people are like, yo, I want something already done. I want it to my taste. I'll pay a designer to come in, lay it out for me, and boom. And to be honest, I'm one of those people. But I did buy a house that I did have to renovate and work on and stuff like that. And I did not mind that too. But in life, I realized as you get older, you have less of an interest in flipping people, like trying to build people up and invest all, because you don't have as much time as you did when you were in your 20s and stuff like that to work through all of these crazy, things that happen in relationships. When you hit your 30s, late 30s, early 40s, last thing on your mind is a young person that is immature, naive, won't listen, lacks humility, is full of pride, and you got to break all that down. And it's like, yo, I don't know if I ever date somebody or, excuse me, court somebody younger than me ever again, because it was such a challenge. I mean, my second husband was much younger than me, and at the time that we connected and, you know, decided to get married, we were, I would say he was never spiritually on the same level as me, but he was always willing to listen. And then something happened where he was no longer willing to listen. And when that happened, it just really started breaking everything down. And then, you know, I found out a whole lot of stuff after, and then it just led into a series of infidelities and all the kind of stuff. But anyway, potential. The word potential is a very dangerous thing. I think potential works for some people, but you have to realize, does potential work for you? Does it work for you? Have you really believed in potential to the point where it costs you so much that you can't afford potential no more? I can't afford potential. Potential is expensive. The repair work is just, oh Lord, it's a lot. And I realize it's more than I care to deal with. If I were to ever seriously consider crossing that Red Sea again, I mean, it's going to have to be parted by the Great Father. Because I just am no longer there to say potential is my friend. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't work for some people. And like I said, some people, you have to see their willingness to change, their willingness to fight, their willingness to grow. And that willingness is truly what potential looks like. And to me, that might be something worth looking into for those that can appreciate potential. Because there are people that love, you know, like I said, some people that's their thing, you know. But not everybody can flip houses. Not everybody wants to. Not everybody wants to deal with all the headaches and the strains and the deadlines and the multiple contractors and this and that. And you're like, whoa, I didn't know it was going to be this deep. Maybe I just need to hire a project management company. Sometimes you just got to hire a therapist and say, look, work it out. You know, take your time. Here, I help you. I invest in this and give yourself, like, you know, 90 days, 6 months, something. Work these things out and then call me. Because this how I'm going to bless you. I'm going to sow a seed into this ministry for you. For you. Oh, I'm not laughing because that's funny. But I'm just saying that, you know, some people, if you say, hey, look, your potential too strong, meaning there's so much work. It's too much work for me. You got to really look at people and be honest and be watchful and say, yo, this is too much work for me. I mean, you have, and you know, and you got to look at what real potential is, and what your deal breakers are, and be honest to yourself. If you don't want a spouse with like crazy, you know, baby daddy, baby mama issues, then be upfront. If you see this person cannot manage their life and that person is overruling your household or their household and they not there no more and they got this open door policy that's real strange in the beginning, pay attention to that stuff. Watch it. Just watch it. Does the person call her all the time? Can they come in and out of her house without notice? Do they meet in public places? Do they pick them up at the house? Because all of these things will be stuff you would have to deal with if you marry. And does she listen to you? Can she take any of your advice, even on general topics? People who can't even take your advice on a general topic ain't gonna take your advice on nothing serious. If you say, you know what? What would you like to eat? And they throw something out there and you say, well, you know what? I was thinking maybe we can go here. And they're like, nah, I don't eat that. I don't want that. I don't want, and they're not even trying to look at the menu. They don't even know what's there. That person didn't even hear you. They already had something in their mind before you asked and it was already there. And anything you're saying is just, air. And it's going to go their way. And people that are, so focused on themselves and not really considerate of you, I would question if that's really potential or if that's your hoping and dreaming and creating something that's not real or not there. So really analyze, what you say you need and what the Father says you need. Because sometimes we'll say we need stuff that the Father don't even write down as necessities, but we call them necessities. So try to balance it out too, because there are no perfect people, right? It's just someone that might be the most ideal or for you or the person you choose to work for, really, and make your relationship work. But that's pretty much me on potential. But what do you say? I mean, do you consider potential a enemy or a friend of yours? And how does that work? So if you want to talk about it, you can find me on social media. And that's on Facebook and Instagram as author Kaylee. That's author Klee. You can also go to my website, which is drcrystallee.com. So that's drkrystalllee.com. You can click the contact tab, and once you do, it'll pull up a form. Just fill it out and just say, want to share some information, or, just want to share my thoughts, and tell me about what you think about potential, because I would love to just kind of go over your thoughts and share them in a, just a quick little video, or even do a repost on social media or something similar. But anyway, I love you much. I pray you all have a wonderful day, and I pray your journey to find your king or your queen is going better than it was before. And one of the things you're going to learn is the more you learn about yourself, the better you're going to be able to assess that other person for you. So get to learn yourself. Be patient, be kind, be gentle. It will come in time. May you all be blessed, and bye-bye for now.